Ford says the new Ranger fulfills truck owners' demand for a built Ford tough midsize pickup. The specs look great, but does the driving experience hold up to expectations? Let's find out as 4-Wheel Drive Magazine takes a driver's eye view of the new Ford Ranger. We strapped in behind the wheel of the new Ranger in La Jolla, California, and set out for the 1.5-hour drive to the Bradford Ranch for off-road testing. Twisting our way along the 2-lane highway, the Ranger handled the curves with minimal rolling. The suspension was comfortable, although a little floaty for my taste. However, this softness settled down later on in the payload and trailering tests and was awesome at smoothing out the off-road terrain at higher speed. We were in the 4x2 Super Cab XLT. The rear seat is a tight fit, with a 6'2" guy in the front with his knees against the dash and the 5'8" guy in the rear with his knees up against the back of the front seat. The space is adequate for short drives, but the Super Cab is really better for families with smaller people in the rear. The Super Crew gives you a full 4 inches more legroom and an extra 3 inches of headroom, making it the best option for traveling with 4 adults. Braking was solid and confident as we occasionally ran up behind some snail's pace trucks as we were pushing the Ranger to its on-road limits. Well, naturally, when you're on a drive and you really want to test how a truck drives, you get stuck behind, I don't know, I think there must be 4 garbage trucks or construction pieces of equipment. And these guys have not seen the speed limit sign recently because we are going way too slow. Acceleration was good for a small pickup. Not snap your head back acceleration, but adequate, even at 60 miles per hour when you need to pass. We've been behind these trucks now for 4 days. And here's the acceleration. Still, leave yourself lots of room when you gotta pass. Inside the cab, the engine doesn't sound quite like a little 4-banger, but there's a reason for that. Like the F-150 series, Ford augments the engine sound using the audio system in the truck. You are hearing your engine. It's not a recording, but it is enhanced so that it sounds the way North Americans want it to. The 2.3-liter EcoBoost mated to the 10-speed transmission provided very smooth acceleration. Unless you're really paying attention, you don't even notice the shift changes. A bone of contention for some drivers is the auto stop-start technology. I can say that it worked flawlessly on our trials, and you can turn it off with a push of a button. However, the default position is on, so every time you turn the key to shut the truck off, when you turn the key back on again, it restarts the auto stop function. Overall, I enjoyed the driving experience, although I expected a more sporty feel from the suspension and the EcoBoost engine. I enjoyed driving the 6-cylinder 2.7-liter EcoBoost in the F-150 and was hoping the 4-cylinder 2.3-liter would be just as fun in the smaller Ranger. If you decide to buy the 4x2 model, you can drop it into S for sport mode for quicker acceleration, but it doesn't change the suspension, and we really didn't feel much of a difference. On a positive note, the inline 4 does produce 270 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque, and gets 21, 26, and 23 miles per gallon city highway and combined. That's less horsepower than the Tacoma at 278 or the Colorado at 308 in their gas V6 engines, but more torque. In fact, the only way to get more torque in this segment is the diesel Colorado at 369 pound-feet. But you give up a lot of horsepower as it goes down to 200. What is interesting with the Ranger's 2.3-liter is you get 270 horsepower using 89 octane. If you use 92 octane, Ford says you can get 300 horsepower. So if you need another reason to choose the Ranger, just buy better gas. And Ranger buyers will have to be happy with it, as it is the only engine option. When asked why, Ford staff said they believe this is the best engine choice for the truck. I asked why not include the existing 2.7-liter EcoBoost. The answer was they wanted a shorter, lighter engine for the truck. Any weight savings means a bigger payload capacity, and in this case, it is a segment-leading 1,860 pounds. That's roughly 300 pounds better than the competitors. The shorter engine improves the approach angle of the truck and makes room for the powered cooling fan, improving off-road and towing capability. Now for the off-road test. First up was a test of Ford's Trail Control feature, which is also found in the Ford Raptor. And they chose the 2019 Tacoma Trail Control to do a head-to-head comparison. Both systems are essentially an off-road cruise control, which allow computer-controlled throttle and braking to each wheel. Ford made theirs with a range of 1 to 20 miles an hour, while the Toyota system only works between 1 and 5 miles per hour. And the idea here is
this is just showing so you hear the traction control and the torque and the brakes all working all together.
Hands on the wheel, feet off the brakes, and it's just going to modulate both the acceleration and braking.
Okay, so essentially this is idiot-proof crawling.
Something like that.
So obviously this was a pretty minor, almost waste of time to show it. Why didn't you guys put together something that was a little bit more technical to really show the highlights of the system or what it could be used for?
Yeah, it's a good point. I can understand that. We really wanted to just show how it works on a smaller scale, and show how the Tacoma works, so you could see them side by side.
It was immediately apparent that the Ford Trail Control system is much smoother and quieter. The off-road course was a circuit that included some mud, off-camber corners, open running, small climbs, and descents. Typical terrain for reaching that out-of-the-way fishing hole or your favorite isolated camping spot. This is where the Ranger really did shine. In the 4x4 version, the approach angle was useful at 28.7 degrees. The breakover angle was good at 21.5 degrees, and the departure angle of 25.4 degrees meant we didn't get hung up on the trail. The suspension worked to keep higher off-road speeds controllable and comfortable. 4x4 was dependable throughout and made easy work of the course, which honestly could be done in two-wheel drive. When it comes to off-road, we like what Ford has done. This is a body-on-frame construction with a solid reel axle by Dana, the same company that supplies Jeep. And the Ranger comes with a rear-locking differential. It is an off-road truck that will get you where you need to go to have fun. The Ranger has a max payload of 1,860 pounds in the best 4x2 configuration. Driving with this payload for acceleration, braking, and cornering was like it wasn't even there. But the ride did improve as the suspension didn't feel like we were floating down the road like it did when we were unloaded. We tested the tow capabilities of the Ranger by hooking it up to a boat. The 2.3-liter EcoBoost delivers a best-in-class for gas tow rating of 7,500 pounds. In the mid-size segment, only the Colorado or Canyon with the Duramax diesel is better at 7,700 pounds. 200 pounds difference. I gotta be honest with you, it feels just a little bit sketchy. That's a lot of boat for a mid-size pickup truck. Trailer brake system is really solid. It slows the trailer down just the way it should, so everything's been set up properly. I wouldn't want to have to do this every day with this truck, but man, if you need to get your boat down the lake every other weekend, this will do the job. The Ranger towed the boat, although I wouldn't want to tow this much on a regular basis. But for occasional hauling, you can get the job done and for a lot less money than buying a full-size truck. You can accelerate adequately in traffic and safely bring the truck to a stop. You will want to take the corners slowly though, and keep in mind that your truck can be narrower than your load, so drive cautiously. The trailering package has the Ford Blind Spot Information System, BLIS, which after the trailer is hooked up, radar in the taillights monitors vehicles in your blind spots right to the back of the trailer. The Ranger can store up to 3 different trailer profiles, taking into account the trailer length to let you know if there's a vehicle there. When the trailer isn't attached, BLIS has a cross-traffic alert that can warn you of approaching traffic when you're backing out of a parking spot. Ford is doing some cool things for Ranger outside of the truck's engineering. They market the truck as a lifestyle piece of gear, and they've done a great job by partnering with quality aftermarket accessory companies like Yakima, Thule, Bedrug, Trixedo, Undercover, Kicker, Aeroskin, Bushwhacker, Borla, Rigid, and Warren. The advantages to you and me include having trusted brand names that we know, which allow you to incorporate your existing accessories. And because you can get them at your Ford dealer, you can incorporate them into the purchase financing of your vehicle. That means outfitting your truck with the gear you need when you need it, and hopefully at a cheaper rate of financing than you can get anywhere else, if you need to finance your truck. Analysts say the Ranger will rise to be the #2 brand in the segment. What do you think? Now, with just one engine option, limited availability in the Canadian market, the fact that the #1 lifestyle truck brand Jeep will soon be entering the fray, can the Ranger, driven by Ford's marketing department, reach the #2 position, or even #1, which the previous Ranger didn't reach in its last 7 years of production? Please let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. They say money can't buy you happiness, but we know it'll buy you a 4x4, and that might get you there.